Morning. I hope everybody's doing well. It's so great to see you. Welcome to Money in the Morning. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and so good to see everybody. And so you can come on into the private Zoom if you are ready to be B1. B1 means Black First. Black First means we put our community at the top of our priority list. Black First means we educate our own people. Black First means that we believe in wealth, building generational wealth and generational possibility for our children and our grandchildren and our unborn great grandchildren, great triple great grandkids. I want everybody in your family to be wealthy. I want everybody in your family to win. I want to say good morning to everybody. I hope everybody's feeling good. I'm feeling good. I got up this morning. I wasn't in the 5 a.m. club, but I'm in Atlanta getting ready for the All Black National Convention. And so I think I was in the 6:30 a.m. club, which is the 5:30 a.m. club back in Chicago. So hey, we getting it in. We making it happen. So I went for a nice little run today and had some business meetings, thought about some things, and I wanted to lay those things out for you. First thing I want to do really quickly, do a quick sound check. Give me a yes if you can hear me okay. Let me know if I'm coming through all right. I want to make sure you guys can hear me. And also, I want to really congratulate all of you because I thought about something this morning that really hit me like a ton of bricks. And here's one thing that I realized, and this is just during my moments of reflection as we prepare for the convention. I realized that I hope y'all know that we have made Black history. I hope y'all know that. I hope you know that like Black history isn't just something that we study. Black history is something that is meant to be made. And I hope you know that we've made Black history right here in this spot. And let me explain why. Um, if you know the history in terms of why we started the All Black National Convention, it was because most of the Black organizations, most of the Black civil rights groups, most of the Black conferences, whether it's Congressional Black Caucus, NAACP, all that, most of those gatherings and entities are heavily funded by white people. And again, I'm not trying to get into black versus white conversations, but I think we know, if you were in Powernomics training last night or you've done any of them, you'll know from reading Dr. Claude Anderson books that black people really don't have any true allies. I've never ever fallen for the myth that a white Superman was going to come in and save the black community. Maybe some of y'all might have believed it at one point. But I that was something very early. I kind of got slapped out of that. And so one of the things that we did in the very beginning, when we started moving, I would say we really started moving this thing. Really actually was 2004. 2004 was when I wrote my book, What If George Bush Were a Black Man? And then I wrote Financial Lovemaking a couple years later. But actually, my very first book was called Everything You Ever Wanted to Know About College. Because at that time, I was on the faculty at Syracuse University. And I said, okay, doing well in college is easy. Making straight A's is easy. It's a piece of cake. I figured it out in undergrad, but when I became a professor and I got to the other side of the curtain, I said, okay, all you got to do is this, and this, and you'll be fine. It's easy, right? And but yet somehow we kind of feel like everything's a mystery because maybe the mystery is whether or not we believe that we're capable or worthy of certain levels of success. And so, anyway, when I wrote that book, and it was very hard in the beginning, I couldn't, no one would, I couldn't get anybody to listen really. I was on a faculty listserv with some professors. One of them was a lady named DT Ogilvy, I think, and she ran the listserv. It was back when people would email or they would write articles or write their points and send it out on the listserv. And I was writing articles and I would put them on the listserv, and it was DT and a bunch of black professors. And this is the infancy of me becoming the Dr. Boyce Watkins that I guess that I am now, right? And let me tell you, just to let you know how things can sort of start off. At first, when I would write my articles, everybody loved them. Everybody would say, "Oh my God, that's so good, that's so great." And even the things I said that were a little bit radical, like, okay, we need to think about wealth building and stuff like that. They agreed with me, but I think that they were kind of afraid to align with me too much because they were like, okay, he's gonna get us all fired, right? And that's when I kind of realized I didn't really belong in academia because unfortunately, academia sometimes can be full of a lot of highly educated cowards. And I'm not saying that they're cowardly by nature. I'm saying that your financial situation can make you a coward. It's like if you go to battle and you have the best armor, the best weapons, the best strategy, then you're bold, you're ready. You're like, okay, what's up? Let's do this. But if you show up to the battle and you have no armor, you have no weapons, you have no skill set, no battle plan, and you're out there butt naked on the battlefield, well, you're going to bow to anybody that holds a sword over your head. Do you understand what I'm saying? And instead of talking about swords and shields, I'm talking about economics. I'm talking about financial protection, financial security, income, wealth, etc. So men and women, people become naturally courageous when they're financially secure. If you're looking for your courage is one day it's going to be in your bank account, partly in the sense that when you know that your boss doesn't hold this job over your head to the point where they can scare you with it, then you're going to move different. You just are. Free black people move differently from those who are enslaved. That's just the reality of it all. And I wasn't free at the time. I had my job at Syracuse. I was making $115,000 a year, which was a decent amount of money at that time. I guess it's still a decent salary. And I was figuring out who I was. So I write these articles and I put it on the listserv. And at first they were like, "We love it. Way to go. This is great. Go, brother, go." But then I started to get more attention. I started doing local media. And then I was like, well, why should I start with local media? I'll just do national. Let's see if I can do that. And there was a little white girl. I kid you not. I paid all these publicists. I paid a lot of black publicists lots of money. Publicists are really hard to get because a lot of them will want like $2,000 or $3,000 in advance, which was a lot of money at the time for sure. It's still a lot of money, and they don't guarantee you anything, right? And so a lot of them unfortunately will scam you. They'll say, "Oh yeah, I worked with Denzel Washington," but they might have literally like passed him in the airport 10 years ago and showed him where the bathroom is, but they got Denzel in their bio now, right? And so I didn't know the game. So this is just advice for anybody that's ever goes into that space. And so I had to kiss a lot of frogs before I found somebody that could actually get the job done. And it was this little white girl, I kid you not, and she calls me and she's like, "Hey, Dr. Watkins, I saw your press release and I'd like to serve as your publicist." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, ma'am. I ain't spending no more money. I done been hurt, scammed, I've been betrayed, I've been lied to. I ain't giving you no money." And she said, "That's okay." She said, "I read your book, What If George Bush Were a Black Man?" I was like, "Oh, you read it? And you're a white girl? Okay." And she said, "I read your book." That told me she invested time in me in advance. That's a good way. They call that the lemon theory in finance. The lemon theory kind of leans into this idea that says that the more skin someone has in the game, the more committed they are to an investment. So if anybody ever wants you to invest in something, just a little investing tip, always ask them, how much did you put in? How much? Okay, you want me to put in 10,000. Did you put in 10,000? And don't let them tell you like, "Oh, well, I put in $10,000 worth of effort." No, you asked me to put in $10,000 worth of money. Did you put in $10,000 worth of money? How many years have you been working on this investment? Because what that does is it sends a signal that connects to another theory called the signaling theory. The signaling theory, which is connected to the lemon theory to some extent, basically says that if you want me to put my ass on the line, then I need to know if you put your ass on the line too, because they do this to a lot of athletes. That's how they get their money. They'll have the athletes investing tons of their money into a venture that they themselves would never invest in because they're not there to try to take the risk. They're there to collect the fee, right? So they get their fee no matter what. But you're taking all the risk, right? So it's heads you win. It's sorry, heads we win, tails you lose, right? So anyway, long story short, this little white girl told me that she had read my book, and I was like, "Oh, well, okay, well, I'm kind of impressed because I know it took some time to read the book." And also I remember when the first time I met Charlemagne the God, I gave him my book, and he actually read it. I think he's going to read it. People had asked for the book, and I was like, "Oh, you're just going to put it on your shelf," and that's okay. So anyway, and by the way, if I see someone keeps bringing up ICE deporting people in Chicago. I don't know anything about the ICE situation in Chicago, and that's not the scope of this class. So, how about we save that conversation for later, Yolanda? Because the ICE conversation is controversial. There are people in here that support what's going on with the illegal immigrant situation. There are some who are against it. You're welcome to have whatever opinion you want, but just so you know, I see Yolanda, you mentioned the ICE thing 3 or 4 times in the chat. If you could save that discussion for a broader political conversation, I'd appreciate that because I don't want to sit here and fight with you over Donald Trump today. That's not the scope of this discussion. We're talking about Black economics. And so, anyway, so to continue the story, so I remember, so just to tell you just how, just to encourage you as you're going on that bumpy road toward entrepreneurship and trying to become who you're supposed to be, you may not always get supported. So there was a point. So what happened was this little white girl, believe it or not, she made this crazy deal with me. She said, "How about this, Dr. Watkins? You don't pay me a penny." She said, "But if I can get you a national TV interview, on a network that has over 1 million viewers, you give me $5,000. And so I was like, oh, okay, great. Because in my mind, her saying she wanted $5,000 to get on national TV, that was like me giving her no dollars. Because I'm like, this isn't gonna happen, right? And so anyway, believe it or not, this little girl pulled it off. She was a 25-year-old white girl. I'll never forget, I don't remember her name. And my first interview was literally the worst first national TV interview you ever want to have. I was actually on Fox News. I didn't know that Fox News was Fox News at the time in terms of how they operate politically. I didn't know literally the interview was a complete ambush. It was crazy. And I was so nervous. My heart was pumping out of my chest. Hillary Clinton, or no, not Hillary Clinton. Donald Rumsfeld, the Secretary of Defense, was on right before me. So this was way out of my league in terms of me being ready for it. And I got through it and it was fine. And so anyway, when I started to do that, then other things happened. Fox News followed by CNN, stuff like that. And I started to get a little more attention on the work that I was doing. And in fact, I was on CNN and stuff like almost every week eventually until I got blackballed from CNN and Fox because I said some things about Bill O'Reilly in terms of calling out his racism. And that was when I didn't realize how white folks on both sides of the aisle might work together, actually. And it was right during the Obama campaign where I literally got blackballed. So you didn't see me on national TV during that time because they do blackball people, and it's fine. But it taught me a lesson about economic independence, and I'm going to get to that. I promise you, this story has a point for sure, and I want to make sure you see the economic lesson in all of this. Okay, so anyway. So then, and then and one of my favorite times in terms of national exposure was Wendy Williams. I was nervous about that show. I didn't know what to expect. I'd seen her fighting with Whitney Houston on the air or something. So I didn't know what to expect, but it turns out Wendy has a lot of respect for professors, and she was very gracious. One of the best interviews I ever worked with. I met Charlemagne at the time, and it was just a great experience, right? So long story short, when this started to happen, as soon as things started to take off, I remember I met this white guy on campus at Syracuse. I forgot his name, but he'd been in media thousands of times. I keep forgetting his name, but he's a big guy in journalism. And he said that in my last job, the minute I became successful was the year I got fired. He said, you cannot underestimate how jealous other people around you may become if they start to see you kind of elevate. They'll root for you when you're losing, but they may not root for you as much when you start winning. Only true friends will keep rooting for you when you start winning. Anybody ever seen that? Anybody ever go through that before? Where you got like a best friend and you don't even realize that your best friend is competing with you or that they're comparing themselves to you. And suddenly you're happy. You found what you want. You found that great relationship. You found that great job. You got that great business going. You came into some money. And then suddenly things kind of change. I didn't know anything about that at the time, but I learned, oh, that, like they said, you're gonna learn today. So I learned. So here's what happened. So I was writing these articles on this listserv with DT Ogilvy, the Rutgers professor, and these other black faculty. And then at one point they said, "We're kicking you off the listserv." And I said, "Well, what did I do?" And she's like, "Well, because your articles they're fine and they're good, but we don't want to hear all that stuff." Or it was something like that. And it is fine. I mean, I've been kicked out of places before, but I remember thinking, like, what did I do? Like, y'all supposed to be my people. Like, nobody's back. These white folks are on my back, and now the black people don't want to work with me. And so, but what's really fascinating was years later, a lot of these very same people were bragging to their friends that they knew me, right? Because once you kind of gain more like power and legitimacy, certain people just acknowledged that, and it was okay. I just kept going; it did not stop. So anyway, we kept going, and then eventually I didn't need anybody's listserv, and eventually we didn't even need national TV anymore. I stopped doing that probably around 2012 or something like that. The whole time the message was pretty consistent. It was similar to what we've talked about now, which is that the biggest challenge for Black people is our economic independence. Our biggest challenge is that we must find some way to learn how to make money without being on the white man's nipple. That we are somehow misled into believing that the only way we can pay our bills is if a white man goes and builds a business and then gives us a job inside that business. Never once are many of us ever exposed to the idea that the same way he went out and started a business and hired people, you can also start a business and hire people, right? Never are we led to believe that it's possible for us to be financially secure enough to say, I don't want to go to work today. Or secure enough to say, I want to stay home with my kids. Or in a good enough position to say, I think I want to go buy some property. I want to go and make investments in the market. I'm a participant in the American dream, not because somebody sold it to me through a DEI program, not because somebody gave me a job and gave me access, not because somebody opened some magical door which gave me these opportunities. No, I am a participant in the American dream because I made it so. I set that reality for myself. I set it through planning. I set it through collaboration. I set it through investing. I set it with a strong family. I set it by owning stock. I set it by owning real estate. I set it by starting a business. And therefore, I have access to the American dream because me and my people got together and made that happen, right? We got together and we cooked up, in addition to cooking up some good barbecue, we also cooked up some juicy, delicious black privilege, right? It's sweet, it's delicious, it's nice and hot and tasty and melts in your mouth. And it's the best dish grandma and grandpa ever made. And that black privilege that I want you to start cooking at your family get together, that's what I want you eating every day. Like, instead of us obsessing over white privilege, I think we should obsess over black privilege, because black privilege is something that you can create through cooperative economics, through healing mental health and physical health, also through healthy relationships. When you do those things, you create bubbles and spaces where you actually are the one that's in power. I know that's hard to imagine. I know that we're scared of this idea, but really, whether or not you feel oppressed is a highly conditional statement. It depends on where you at. If I'm a Crip and I'm in a blood neighborhood, then hell yeah, I'm gonna be scared. Because everything that makes me powerful has suddenly made me vulnerable. So if I'm a Crip and I'm in a blood neighborhood, now the Crips and Bloods have gotten much more mature in terms of how they interact. They're friends now, and I just love that. I think that's great for the community, right? But if I'm a Crip and I'm in a blood neighborhood and I'm worried about where I'm at, what's the best thing for me to do? It's for me to leave, go back to Crenshaw or wherever I can, go back to my neighborhood so that I can be safe again. You don't spend time in places where which are you don't spend time in foreign spaces. A basketball team doesn't ask the league to give them 82 road games to play all season. No, they want to play the home games where they feel like that's my territory. This is where we win. This is our house. So the challenge, the economic challenge for the Black community is that we don't spend enough time saying, what is our house and how do we build that house? And so here's what happens. So years later, and this gets to today, this is going to move us to 2025. So for years, we spent time on these radio stations trying to convince people that wealth matters for the Black community. A lot of people weren't listening, but I was going to keep talking no matter what. And eventually around 2013, I decided to kind of put my foot down on something. And I decided to write a manifesto. And the Black Wealth Manifesto is it's this book. It's still on Amazon if you want to go grab a copy. It's called It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, a new paradigm for Black America. It's a short book. It's only 57 pages, but I wrote it angry. I was angry when I wrote it. And basically in this manifesto, um, my goal was to communicate a set of ideas and a vision that I refer to as Project 2070. Right? Everybody, they got y'all scared to death about Project 2025. Um, I don't think about Project 2025. I think about Project 2070. Project 2070 is that by the year 2070, two generations down, B1 people, not all Black people, but B1 people, those who choose wealth, those who choose to grow, those who choose to heal, choose to break generational curses, are going to be known throughout the world as the greatest economic thinkers on the planet. You are going to be known for your economics as well as you're known for your basketball. Your kids will know, they will know investing before they ever learn how to rap. They will know real estate before they ever learn how to twerk. They will know ownership before they know their ABCs. And what this is going to do is this is going to set a precedent. This is going to brand us throughout the world as those people who have their economics down pat. And so here we are. And so 2013, we did this. I did a little tour around it. And I went to different cities and I had people that were gracious enough to join me in each of the cities. Dr. Steve Perry joined me in DC and we did some stuff on education related to this because it came down to what I call the new paradigm for Black America: wealth, education, family, and community. If you have wealth, then you can do things like educate your own kids. If you educate them in an excellent way, then you're typically going to have strong families because you've been educated not just on the ABCs and the one, two, threes, but you've also been educated on things like emotional intelligence. You've been educated on how to be a strong father. You've been educated on how to be an excellent mother. You've been educated on how to raise excellent children, right? That's education. It's not just what you learn in school as you're learning how to go get that job for that white man. It's what you learn in life that prepares you to be successful in everything that matters for you. Anything that's important for you, you should get training on it, right? Everything's easy if you study. So you have the wealth, you're now getting the education, then you have the strong families. A community ain't nothing but a collection of families. There is no community on earth that is weak, that is full of strong, conscientious families. If you have a community, imagine a neighborhood where you got 400 families. Every family is stable, solid, intelligent, prepared, has some money in their pocket, cares about the community, conscientious, loves their neighbor, wants to do the right thing. That's going to be a hell of a community. You can't come and conquer a community like that. Tell me if I'm right. Tell me if you agree. You cannot conquer a community that is full of strong, stable, educated, intelligent families that have some wealth in the bank. You cannot do that. Go to a rich white neighborhood with good white folks. Not all of them are evil, right? Go to a rich white neighborhood with some conscientious white folks and go in there and try to have your way. You can't build a damn Burger King in a neighborhood like that without some lady at every zoning board meeting saying you're not allowed to do that because of regulation 6746A, or from the people from the HOA that ride around their little golf carts and say you left your trash can out on a Tuesday. You can't do that, right? That's what communities look like. Those are people that are basically setting the standard, saying, look, if you can't play by the rules, you can't live here. You're not operating the way we want you to, and they not like us, so you got to go. And it ain't just along racial lines. I mean, sure, you got some people that might have race as part of the decision-making process, but I can tell you as a black man who's owned property in some of these neighborhoods, some of y'all own property in these spaces, they're not really like trying to boot you out because you're black, but they will boot you out if you're ignorant. If you act a damn fool, they're gonna tell you to leave. So here's my point. So with this Project 2070 that I wrote about in the book. It takes a village to raise the bar, new paradigm for Black America. I wanted to make the message clear because I said somebody's got to do something. I said I don't know how much I can do, but I'm gonna try. And I remember specifically that year I went to go meet with Reverend Jesse Jackson and Father Michael Flager. And I love Father Michael Flager and I love Reverend Jackson. He was always very kind to me. In fact, he said so, he gave me one of the best compliments ever. Like that almost made me blush. He said Dr. Watkins, if Dr. King was around, he'd be quoting you all over the place. And I keep that in my pocket. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool to hear. And Father Michael Flager is just one of the most courageous people you'll ever meet. I mean, just so much respect for him. But I remember when we sat down and we were talking about just what's happening in our communities, and I said, we got to do something. We got to build better boys, like do something when they're boys so that they become stronger men so they can fight against the oppression. And I remember that the perspective Reverend Jackson shared with me, it was different, a little bit different from my own. It's not to say he was wrong, because I really love Jesse Jackson. I love his whole family. Santita, I got to know them all. And but I remember he kept talking about um the system, and he talked about jobs, and he talked about what the government was and was not doing for Black people. And I kind of I listened. And I think what I've always been looking for is the like what now? Okay, so we know that the system doesn't love us. We know that they're not going to do right by us. We know that they're not going to provide enough jobs. What now? What now? Right? And I think that's when I kind of, as I'm finding myself, that's I think when I realized maybe I was a little bit more of a Farrakhan guy, even though I admire both of them. But so Minister Farrakhan joined me in Chicago. We did an event together. It was me and him for about 2.5 hours, and we went through wealth, education, family, and community, a new paradigm for Black America. And um And it was a time where I said, maybe this is something that we can lay out as a blueprint going forward that isn't just, I believe, going to work for sure, but it's also very simple to understand. Do you simple, right? And that's the idea, right? I think when you have those really simple ideas that you can embrace and apply very easily, and you apply it not from the top down. I don't believe in black leadership in America right now. I think that most of our leadership is propped up, it's fake, it's created, mass produced by white and Jewish owned companies. It's a lie, it's a myth, right? I think black leadership has to be more decentralized. Black leadership starts in your house. Is your father leading the house? Is your mother leading the house? Are you leading your house? You're the black leader. You know what your family needs. You know who you are. So how the hell are you gonna let me tell you who to vote for? And you're the captain of your house. I'm just an advisor. I'm a guy that can just support you. But ultimately, at the end of the day, that's what's going to make the difference in your life. And so, anyway, so I wrote about this in 2013. We're in year 12 of that plan, a 57-year plan to create Black economic dominance around the world. And I would argue that we are well ahead of schedule. Like I will tell you, in 12 years, I believe that all of us working together, not me, not just one of you or not one of me, all of us working together, we've shifted Black culture. I believe we've literally taken this freaking gigantic tanker ship and shifted the direction of that sucker. Now, Black wealth, I started noticing in about 2017 that terms like generational wealth, Black wealth, all that stuff was becoming common in our language. People were talking about it all the time. Even people who disagreed with me, because sometimes I can be an asshole, and some people just, I'm a hard pill to swallow for some people, and that's okay, right? But even people that vehemently disagreed with me would agree with me on the generational wealth point. They would say things that I'd be like, huh, you're kind of quoting me. That's kind of cool. I like that. I like the fact that we can find that baseline we can all agree on. And I think wealth is one of those baselines, right? And I think we can also agree, no matter what your political affiliation is, that we want Black families to be more stable. We want Black children to be safe. We want Black people to improve our mental health. We want our physical health to be good. We want money in our pocket. Having strong economics is a solution. So long story short, I can say that I'm proud of that. And the thing is that the All Black National Convention was kind of a manifestation of that. And as we go into our 10th year, and this convention, it's going to be the biggest ever, and it's our 10th year convention. I am enormously proud of the fact that we were able to do this for 10 years straight and do it big, and we didn't have to go asking for nobody's help to do this. We have proven that we have made Black history because we have proven that Black economic self-sufficiency is possible. Not to say that that hasn't been proven before. The people that built Black Wall Street did that too. But we lost that. We lost that part of our culture. That was like kind of the hidden blackness that was out there, but we let it go. We let it go around the 1960s and 70s. We kind of went in a different direction. But now we're bringing sexy back in terms of Black wealth. We're bringing back Black power. We're bringing back Black economic strength. We're going back to the roots of who we are. We're going back to what granddaddy and grandma understood because they knew that they didn't have no friends. They knew how treacherous their enemies could be. They knew that nobody was going to feel sorry for you. And I just think it's amazing. I think that the more we continue to reconnect with who we truly are, the more dominant our community is going to become. Because I can tell you right now, there are thousands of you that will come in here every morning, and about 30 or 40% of you at least have more wealth and more money in your pocket than most white people do. And the beautiful part of that, the part about that that excites the hell out of me, is that I know this is just the beginning. If you saw mathematics and finance in the ripple effects the way I can see them, what they call the multiplier effects, it would blow your mind because you don't understand, because the math is very powerful. It says, oh, if you're already here in year 12, oh, just wait till you get to year 30. It's going to be explosive. You're going to accomplish things that you can't even imagine. So we're not gonna be at the bottom forever. We're gonna be in a different space, and it's not gonna take very long to get there. In fact, just to give you a specific thing that anybody could do to change everything in about 10 or 15 years, just take the amount of money that you put in your car note and just say, while I pay the car note, I'm gonna put that same amount of money in my stock portfolio. If you do that, if your car note's 500 and then you put 500 in your stock portfolio religiously every month and you don't sell that stock, then you're going to be extremely wealthy in about year 10 or year 12. You're going to be in a much better position than most people, black, white, green, or yellow. So keep going, and I'm super proud of you, and I'm glad, I'm honored that I've been able to make Black history with you, and I want to say thank you to those that did believe in me, because it kind of hurt my feelings and they kicked me off the listserv. But it's okay. I forgive them for they knew not what they did. All right. So let me mention a couple of things really quick. Number one, some of y'all were asking. I kept telling you that investing is the new black, and some of you wanted me to like put that on a T-shirt. So I'm going to show you. I don't mention our apparel site very often, but I'll show you. If you want to get the shirt, it's at a website. Write this down in the chat. It's wokeblacktees.com. That's wokeblacktees.com. That's the website. It says Black Wealth Tees, but the website is wokeblacktees.com. And so here's the t-shirt, Investing is New Black. Here's another that says Exercise Your Options. This is a king shirt, like a boss. Just a lot of stuff. Black Dads Matter. So just, the B1 shirt is right here. So if you go to wokeblacktees.com, WOKE, blacktees.com, you can get all these shirts, and there's like other stuff here. So feel free to go take a look. And also, I'll text out the link. So if you're not on the text list for this class, just text the word morning to the number 87948. So text morning to 87948, and I'll send the link out to you. Now, I want to talk about one more topic today. I want to talk about something that I shared this on my Instagram, and it was a sort of a quick little pathway to get out of debt. One of the things about debt is that debt is so powerful and so dangerous that people either get screwed by it because they don't take it seriously enough, or they take it too seriously and they are afraid of it and they never pursue debt, even if it presents an opportunity. So here is something. My Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance. So if you go to Dr. Boyce Finance, you can find it there. There's a lot of other stuff you can find on my Instagram. So I try to put stuff up there every day that's interesting, that will benefit you. So sometimes I put fun, silly stuff, but then a lot of economic stuff is up there as well. So basically, if you look here, this kind of lays out a simple framework that you can start with when you talk about debt. Debt can become a significant financial liability. Debt is a big problem for Americans because Americans are trained to consume like crazy. That's what keeps the economy so strong for rich people. And basically, if you want to get out of debt, number one, if you get a credit card, you always want to pay more than the minimum. Never pay the minimum on a credit card. Number two, simple, reduce your expenses if you can. But then an even better option is to increase your income. That comes from side hustles, investments. If you sell stock options, a lot of you have made thousands of dollars a month selling stock options. Increasing your income is a great debt killer because what it does is it allows you to reduce your debt without cutting into your budget. Like you can still spend as much as you were spending before. And when you make a little extra money, that which was expensive suddenly becomes cheap. Or if you need an extra $1,000 on your mortgage payment so you can get a bigger house, you can afford that. So learning how to have that side hustle is one of the reasons why in one of my models for children in economics, I highly recommend that every single child, period, learn how to start their own business because you may need that for a side hustle. And then four is avoiding new debt. But I want to nuance that a little bit, because avoiding new debt really is that's more of a Dave Ramsey-ish kind of way to explain things. And I don't agree with Dave Ramsey on a lot of things. And as a finance PhD, I have the authority to disagree with the one and only Dave Ramsey. And let me explain why. Uh, Debt is not bad. Debt is not good. Debt is powerful. That's all debt is. Debt is not bad. It's not good. It's powerful. So the reason that I think that a Ramsey might tell everyone just avoid debt, get out of debt, stay away from debt, is because debt is typically used very poorly in a lot of families. Okay, debt is not used in a strategic way. Um, in fact, think of it like drugs. If you're in a neighborhood where there are a lot of drug addicts, what are you going to say? You're going to say, just say no to, right? Just say no to drugs, right? But drugs are not bad. Drugs are not good. Drugs are just powerful. A drug will just do what it's supposed to do. Even a drug as dangerous as oxy, or what's that? The one that's hurting everybody in the street, fentanyl, stuff like that. There's legitimate uses for those drugs. I'm gonna tell you, if I, God forbid, if I'm going down for the count with cancer and I'm in extreme pain and I'm about to die anyway, I'm like, give me the best stuff you got. Like, I want to be Pookie the crackhead right now because I just want to be comfortable because I know my days are numbered and that's just what it is. Okay. So here's the deal. So with debt, the thing you got to know about debt is that understanding debt and what it's supposed to do is critical because it's almost like driving a car. If you get a car, you better learn how to drive because if you don't learn how to drive the car properly, the car becomes a death machine, right? But if you can drive carefully, then the car can take you places that you can never go on your own. So never let anybody tell you, "Oh my God, cars are so dangerous. You should just walk everywhere." Well, they're limiting your options because they're trying to keep you safe. But think of how ridiculous that is to tell somebody to never leave the house so you don't end up in a car crash. Well, yeah, they're never going to have a car crash, but they're never going to go anywhere either. So here's what I want you to know in terms of debt. I'm going to lay out some examples of times where debt can be used in a horribly malicious way. And I'm going to try to frame it in a way where you can understand it and kind of walk away with some insights into why there are some people that are so afraid of debt. Anybody ever heard of something called sharecropping? Sharecropping. Anybody know sharecropping? If you don't know sharecropping, some of you are sharecroppers right now. You just don't have any crops. But you're like a corporate sharecropper. And the farm that you're on it's not the farm where you actually grow vegetables and fruit. It's the corporate plantation that came from the university that you went in debt with in order to get that corporate job. So you went in debt at the university and they convinced you to spend $250,000 on a bachelor's degree so you can go out and make 60,000 bucks a year. And now you got to work that debt off and they're going to force you to pay it because they've got the backing of the law. They have the ability to enforce repayment. And so some of us, many of us, no disrespect if you're in this category, I want to support you in getting out of this. But there are millions and millions and millions of people, black, white, and otherwise, who will die owing student loan debt, who will literally be 70 years old. I know 70-year-olds still paying their student loans. When I first started teaching at Syracuse in 2001, 24 years ago, a lot of my first students at Syracuse are now 45 years old. A lot of them still have debt because Syracuse is too expensive. It costs too much. I wouldn't send my child to Syracuse and pay full tuition. I wouldn't do that. If they gave me a scholarship and took 80%, 70% off the price, I'd do it, but I wouldn't pay the $100,000 a year that it costs to go to that school. And so with sharecropping after slavery, what they did was they said, okay, we can't make them slaves legally anymore, right? So they said, what's a better plan? Oh, that's right. We just trick them into debt. And so what they would do is with the freed slaves, they would say, here, we're going to give you some land. We want to help you because we're your allies. We want to give you some free land with some seeds and some tools and give you some food and stuff from the local stores. And don't worry about paying nothing. Don't just sign here. And in fact, if you can't write your name, just put an X here. Just sign this paper. And what would happen is they would manipulate the accounting and they would charge them extremely high interest rates to basically keep them in debt forever. And what that would do is it would force the slaves to have to work the same land for their entire life and never ever move forward. They weren't building any wealth. They were going deeper and deeper in the hole. And if that sounds familiar, it's because they do that to millions of Americans right now. They need you to go to work every day so they can keep the economy going. After the pandemic, their biggest problem was, gosh, now that people have had a taste of freedom, they don't want to go to work anymore. What are we going to do? Oh, I know. Let's make them pay their student loans back. Then they have to come back and work for us. So debt slavery, it's typically created in a scenario. It's really pimping. It's really, if you understand pimping, then you understand debt slavery. So what you do is you find somebody that's financially desperate. You reach out and say, I'm here to help you because I'm your ally. Notice how I just love, it always tickles me when I say because we've always had these so-called allies. Last night, let me just tell you this before we move on. last night in Powernomics training, Dr. Claude Anderson dropped a major bomb on the class in his book, Dirty Little Secrets. And there was one point where he literally said, check this out. This was so crazy. He told a story that you will never hear in school, where he said that the Northern Army was negotiating with the South in the Civil War. They were, and they and Ulysses S. Grant and his troops. They wanted to show the South, like, hey, look, let's just reunify the country, and we're going to be cool again. And the way they did it was they found a black man who was accused of raping a white woman. And what our allies did, our allies from the North, the white liberals, what they did was they lynched the black man who was accused of rape. And they did it in front of the Southern soldiers. They did it where the soldiers could look through I guess they had old-fashioned binoculars. They could see, like, well, they're lynching niggers out there. They're up there lynching a nigger, right? And so, and Dr. Anderson argues that the reason that they did this was to show the Southern soldiers, like, hey, look, we hate Negroes too. Like, we could be just as racist as you are. And the problem was it backfired, because you know what they then did was, what the Southern Army did was they took their black soldiers, they gathered all their black soldiers together, because we fought on both sides, and they took them to where the black men had been lynched, and they said, see, if you go north, this is what they're going to do to you. So even though, you know, we keep you enslaved, but we're never going to do this to you, right? So they were basically saying, see, we're the lesser of two evils. Does that sound familiar? Anybody ever seen that before? They're like, we're the lesser of two evils. I mean, sure, it's not fun being a slave, but would you rather be this guy, right? So, and do you know that it worked like a charm? At that point, the numbers of black slaves that ran and defected to the North dropped precipitously. So when I tell you that I believe to the core of my soul that we ain't really got no friends, that's the story that is always going to come to mind. Now, I didn't even know this story till yesterday. This is what we were reading last night in Powernomics training. So, and if you want to get a copy of his books, I hope everybody takes a look at Dr. Anderson's books. You can go to powernomics.com. Powernomics.com is his website. You should support him. He's older, and he can't get out and speak like he used to, but he loves you. And every time I talk to him, he always tells me to relay that information. All right. So with that said, so sharecropping was an example where the manipulation was done. And typically what they would do is you would find somebody that's financially desperate, you would help them out, and you would basically make things super simple, because, especially if you know they don't read contracts. The music industry is notorious for this. They know that the young artist is not financially conscious, and they have nobody really looking out for their interests. So they're not conscious and they're not protected. So think about it. A person who's vulnerable and unconscious is going to get screwed, right? Literally and figuratively, right? Imagine if you're in a dark alley, you got a pocket full of money, and you are unconscious and you're a pretty lady. Bad things can happen, right? So basically that's what it is. So anyway, they would find somebody that's financially desperate. They would get them to sign a contract, make it very easy, like say an 18-year-old college student. And then what they do is they would tack on a really high exorbitant interest rate, lots of penalties, and then manipulate the accounting. And then before you know it, the person doesn't understand why they're doing all this work and they're not making any money. You see this happen all the time in the music industry, where the artist says, wait a minute, we sold 10 million records and you're telling me we didn't make a profit? Well, that explains it. Or when I was sitting with Will Smith's brother for hours, his name's Harry, super smart, and I really like him. And I haven't talked to him for years though. He was explaining that they started restructuring Will's contracts after the 90s, because in the 90s, they used to get a percentage of the gross. They got a percentage of all the money that came through the door. Then they started saying, no, well, we'll give you a percentage of the net, the profits. But the problem is that profit is a number that can be easily manipulated. So they can literally come to you and say, sorry, we didn't make a profit, so you didn't make any money. When the truth is that they just tacked on a bunch of administrative fees and consulting fees and hired companies that they were actually owned by their friends, and just sucked up all the money. So you have to kind of know these games in order to avoid some of these economic traps that get set for you. The second thing that they used to do, they didn't just do this to black people though. They actually did debt as a slavery to white people too. Coal miners, what they used to do is that they screwed the coal miners. They would have all the coal miners come and work, and they wouldn't get paid with money. they would get paid with a special currency called scrip. And this currency, scrip, was given to them in exchange for them to do their work in the coal mines. And this scrip money could not be used anywhere other than the town where the coal mine was located, and it could only be used inside what they called the company stores. Well, the company stores would increase their prices, and so your money wouldn't go as far. And ultimately, the workers would end up having basic needs that they couldn't afford. So if they have basic needs they can't afford, well, what do? You offer them debt. So they would say, oh, don't worry, you can get your bread and your meat and just get it on credit. So the debt was piling up. The coal miner is working hard, going to work every day, earning his scrip. The scrip is not enough to pay for basic needs. So he ends up living below his needs, right? He's living below his needs, but he's spending above his needs, right? If that makes any sense, right? He's not, so he needs this much, but he's only got this much. So how about this? Let me say it differently. He's earning below his needs, but because it appears that he's spending above his needs, he's going deeper into debt. Well, that's what America does to you also when it comes to inflation. If you notice, pay attention now. First of all, inflation does not have to exist. When America was on the gold standard, inflation was much, much less. There was not this sort of just rapid increase in prices of everything. But when they went off the gold standard, they just started printing money whenever they felt like it. It would just push the prices of things up because you have more and more money out there chasing fewer goods, or the same number of goods is being chased by more money, which is naturally going to increase the price. So basically, if you notice, how many of you noticed this? Tell me if you've noticed this. Have you noticed that even in years where inflation rates are 4, 5, 6, 7, 8%, many workers are only getting raises of like 2 or 3%? Some people don't get raises at all. I mean, I showed you that chart, how the minimum wage, they won't even move the minimum wage. So how in the hell is it that things cost more, but your pay is not going up? And this is why it's essential for every smart, every intelligent Black person in this room, and the intelligent white people too, to invest. You have to invest. You have to own assets, because assets also inflate in value as well. They call that asset inflation. Asset inflation counters regular inflation. So asset inflation means if the price of bread goes up by 10%, then the value of my house probably went up by 12%, which means that I've got more wealth to make up for the fact that things cost more money. So if I'm not investing, then I am gonna lose. The ship is moving and I'm standing still. That doesn't work. It makes me think about Neil deGrasse Tyson said something really awesome. I like this guy a lot. And he was explaining that when you're on Earth and you think you're standing still, you're not standing still. He showed how the Earth revolves around the sun, and it revolves really fast, like hundreds of thousands of miles an hour. But then the sun is moving through the Milky Way at like millions of miles an hour, right? So because the sun is revolving around something too. So you're not just sort of sitting there like the revolving around the stationary sun. You're revolving around this moving object in this elliptical fashion, right? So the sun is moving, the earth is keeping up with the sun, like a parent and a child. Like, come on, baby. Like the sun is holding on to the earth with the gravitational pull and kind of carrying the sun, the earth are connected in that way. Well, here's the crazy part. So not only is the earth revolving around the sun and the sun is revolving around the Milky Way, Milky Way is revolving around this gigantic black hole that they don't even understand. So there's a big black hole in the middle of the Milky Way galaxy, but then there's a really big black hole where all the galaxies revolve around this black hole. And so the Milky Way is moving hundreds of thousands, if not millions of miles an hour, which is crazy to me. Like space will just blow your mind. If I smoked weed, I'd probably just smoke a joint and just talk to ChatGPT about outer space, because it's so trippy to hear like these crazy facts. Why do I bring this up? I bring this up because he said this. He said something that was really funny. He said, so if you really were able to stay in one spot and you sat in that one spot, and while the earth and the sun and the Milky Way were moving, he said in 24 hours, you will be 50 million miles away from all your friends. Tell me that's not crazy. Tell me that's insane, right? You'd be 50 million miles away, miles behind. So that's how I view inflation. That's how I view like economics in America, right? When you're a worker, unfortunately, you're kind of standing still. And the earth is moving, the sun is moving, the Milky Way is moving. So inflation is just carrying the price of everything like through space at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and you're standing still. So you end up falling further and further behind. And that distance that you fall further and further behind, well, that's represented by debt. Debt is what that represents. Debt is that gap between what you spent and what you actually made. And for millions of people, it's growing consistently. In America, student loan debt is at an all-time high. Mortgage loan debt is at an all-time high. Car loan debt is at an all-time high. Credit card debt is at an all-time high. And that did not happen by accident. It's because they're like, we need you to keep spending even if you ain't got the money. And so what I'm here to do is I'm here to say, okay, you got to break that damn spell, number one. Stop spending money because they tell you to. Because they want you to spend until you're dead. Number two, start investing. That's why they call them financial vehicles. Get you a damn vehicle so you can keep up with the way the solar system's moving. Things are moving. Costs are moving. Your assets have to be moving. So that's as simple as I can put it. Let me mention a couple more things in terms of how debt has created slavery. Last example I'll give you is this great movie everybody should watch, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the latest version of it. The first one was really good. The second one with Johnny Depp sucked. The third one was really good. So I watched the third one. I watched it with our daughter. She's into dance and theater and stuff, and so it's a musical, and it's a great musical. I don't even like musicals, but I like this one. And what I liked about Willy Wonka's movie was they showed you how debt can create slavery. So here's what happens, and also how debt can be a dream killer, and how it's a dream killer for the Black community to the loss of trillions of dollars in possibility. So basically, what happens is Willy Wonka moves to London, and he's Willy Wonka. So he's got this big dream, but it's like one of those movies where they go back to when he was young before he built the chocolate factory and met the Oompa Loompas and all that, right? So he basically comes to London, and he has this big dream of building the greatest chocolate factory ever, right? And so he gets there, and he needs a place to stay. So he stays at this hotel. In the hotel, they're like, he's like, well, how much does a room cost? They're like, oh, it's only such and such a dollars or whatever. And then he's like, okay, well, I'll take it. So then they print out this super long contract, right? That's like 8,000 pages. And they're like, here, we need you to sign this for you to stay. And in this contract that he signed, because he was sleepy and didn't want to read the whole thing because it was impossible to read, it had all this fine print that any little thing you do, any little infraction, we then can tack on a fee for this and a fee for that and a fee for this and a fee for that. And so whatever happened, he hit one of the little infractions, and suddenly he was in debt for life. He was in so much debt that it would literally take him 100 years to repay the debt. And then they have the second part, which is necessary to keep people in financial slavery, which is enforcement, right? Like, so for example, the coal miners I told you about, if the coal miners decided, like, screw this system, I'm out of here, they would get arrested, right? So with Willy Wonka, they did the same thing. They said, in order for you to pay off your debt, you have to work for us in the laundry room. And if you try to sneak out, we're going to lock you up or torture you or beat you or put you in a cage, right? So in order for him to pursue his dream of building the chocolate factory, he had to sneak away from his job. Now, how often do you see our people who have big dreams, big goals, amazing things we could be accomplishing, but we can't do any of those things because we got to go to work? And why do you have to go to work? Well, you got to go to work because maybe you're in debt, or maybe you don't have enough financial security to quit your job. But then they tell you the whole time, like, well, you could quit if you want to. You don't actually have to be here, but you kind of have to be there, right? So they give you a choice, but it's really not a choice at all. Kind of like voting sometimes, right? Like, we're giving you a choice. That's not a damn choice. You can't be two options: McDonald's or Burger King. I want health food, right? So what I would say to you is that the best way to overcome a trap is consciousness, financial consciousness. If Willy Wonka had the consciousness to say, I ain't signing that shit. You're gonna kill my dreams. I'll sleep on the street if I have to, but I'm not signing this contract right now, then he would have avoided all the slavery, right? And so the same thing might be true for yourself, right? Financial consciousness, giving it to yourself, giving it to your kids, and having that discipline to say no, thank you. Right? That what that will do, for example, is your 18-year-old when they come to the campus, they try to trick them into signing contracts or credit cards. They'll say no, that's not free money. Right? Because in my head, when I was 18, I know a lot of y'all probably did this. When I was 18, they gave me that credit card. I saw it as free money. I was happy as hell to get that credit card, right? But there's consequences for that, right? So again, we all make mistakes. Everybody's going to slip up sometimes. Most of us will. The key idea is to embrace the idea of financial consciousness so that you minimize the number of times you slip up, because you could get into situations where you get in such a trap that now you're depressed because you have these big goals and big dreams that are bigger than the space in which you're confined, and you find yourself 35, 40 years old doing work that you really don't want to do. And that's not a curse you should pass on to your children. The blessing my grandmother Felicia gave me was, before she passed, is she said, Coco, she said, you don't, one thing you never want to do is spend 30 years doing a job that you hate. And I remember the emotion and the weight of her words when she said that, and that stuck with me. That really stuck with me. So do that for your kids and grandkids. Just teach them that, and embrace that economic intelligence, and really understand, like, black financial security, in my view, is sacred. So when I say things like investing is the new black, I mean that because I'm completely convinced that if we embrace investing at a very high level, consistent level, nothing Hercules style, just little shifts in the habits, that's going to shift the whole culture. It's going to shift the amount of trauma in the community, the amount of economic pain. It's going to make us treat each other better, right? If I'm financially free, I can be a better husband to my wife. If I'm financially free, I can be a better father to the kids. If I'm financially free, I can be here for you. I don't have to say, well, hey, y'all, I really like doing this, but I got to go take this job at DePaul University because I got to go pay some bills, right? No, I can say I'll be there tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern every single day with you because I'm able to do that. So freedom is a prerequisite for really being your best self and pursuing your highest dream. Just like Willy Wonka and that chocolate factory. And I know some of y'all have that level of creativity. A lot of your kids do. And so when you give them that gift of financial security, what you're doing is you're giving them a key that unlocks the universe of all the things that allow them to dream big at the highest levels. I told our 14-year-old, she was mentioning that she couldn't be a professional dancer because professional dancers don't make a lot of money. And I said, so said you make your money as an investor and then you dance for the rest of your life. You should be doing what makes you happy. You just got to solve the $5,000 problem. And you've heard me talk about the $5,000 problem. The $5,000 problem is, can I find some way to make $5,000 without me having to go scrimp and scrape and sacrifice for some white man doing some shit I don't really want to do? Right? Can you find some way to get $5,000 without having to do that? Because you shouldn't be trading hours of your life for a paycheck that barely helps you get by. Your life is too important. Your time is too valuable. You're only going to be young once. One day you're going to be old and tired and dead, and you're going to regret it. So I encourage you, whatever it takes to embrace the idea of freedom, go ahead and do that and give that freedom to the kids. Right? That's the least we can do. And when we do that, they're gonna remember us for that. They better thank us. You better put a statue, tell your kids, grandkids, you better put a statue of me up when I'm gone because I did this. We carved the pathway. We went out into the wilderness and dug out the community that you live in now. So you need to honor that. Make them honor you because you are the trendsetter. You are the go-getter. You are the one that's making it happen. You're changing the culture. And I just want to say, God bless you for that. And I just want to also tell you, don't ever, ever, ever stop. And don't let nobody talk you out of this because this is truth. All right. So I'm out of here, guys. It was great to see you. I hope you have a wonderful day. Really quickly, some of you asked about the name of that book. It's called It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar. It's actually on Amazon. Feel free to pick up a copy. Secondly, that the t-shirt, the shirts that I showed you earlier, the website is wokeblacktees.com, W-O-K-E, that's wokeblacktees.com. And then also, I'm going to text you guys something I put together that I think, I was thinking about this as we were dropping our 18-year-old off to college. So I created something I called a Black Wealth Starter Kit, which is basically a set of stocks that you can buy that 18-year-old to kind of get them started on their investing journey if you haven't done it yet. And so I'll text that out to you soon. So make sure you're on the text list. You can get on the list by texting the word morning to the phone number 87948. So text morning to 87948. If you live in another country, you can just go to Dr. Boyce drboyceelevate.com, drboyceelevate.com, and I'll send you information, probably a lot of it, right? So just be ready, but you'll get stuff from us as well. All right, so have a good day, everybody. God bless you. Thank you so much for listening.